this is very simple. I have here about 4.5 pounds of chicken, and it is the leg and thigh with the back. I cut it up, I removed most of the fat I could find, I removed all of the skin, and you know, I'll be using store-bought jerk marinade. You can certainly make your own marinade, but why bother? I have a simple recipe on caribbeanpot.com to make this, so if you want to head over there and do that, by all means, go over and make your own. I like supporting Caribbean, and I have one I really like. Two things about this jerk marinade that I'm using: it is high in sodium and it's very spicy. So keep that in mind. That is why I didn't go too heavy with that sea salt at the start there. That was sea salt you saw me add. To that, I really like the kick of ginger in jerk. And it is obviously not traditional jerk where it's smoked or on a coal fire or wood fire with pimento wood and all that. But you will get the jerk flavors from that marinade. And that marinade would have allspice and scallion and thyme and scotch bonnet pepper and all those different elements, which makes up a good jerk marinade. It will also, the dark color that you're seeing there, there's a little bit of browning in there and also some soy sauce. To that, we've added the grated ginger. And like the traditional brown stew or stew chicken that we have in the Caribbean, oh gosh, Charlie wants to be in the video. Yo, Dread, I'm trying to shoot something. Cool the herbs, na man. Where we would use Caribbean green seasoning, I'm using that jerk marinade to give it that jerk flavor, thus the jerk stew chicken. So we got the ginger, we got the salt to help with the gravy later on. We've got tomato and half of a large onion that I pretty much diced up. I'm going to switch over spoons, and all you would do at this point is give that a good stir. Make sure the pieces of chicken is covered with that jerk marinade, and you would stick it in the fridge for at least a couple hours. We want that to marinate and go deep within the chicken. It's going to do magical things in the fridge there, so that's why I'm going to go now into the fridge. And as I said, it's very spicy, this jerk marinade that I'm using, so I'm not using any scotch bonnet pepper, but if you want to add some more, you can certainly do that. Got a wide pot, high heat, a tablespoon of olive oil. You're free to use any sort of oil that you like using. I like using olive oil, and I know people talk about the smoke point and all kind of thing like that, but I want you guys to keep in mind something. In the Mediterranean, where olive oil is probably the only oil they use, what do they deep fry with? Aha, Uncle Chris, you dropped some knowledge on them there. Anyways, this is the stewing part. So the seasoning part there was the jerk. This is the stewing part, which some people call brown stew. I don't like calling it brown stew simply because what kind of redundancy is that? It is stewed, so it's going to be brown. Irie? And as we've done with all the stew recipes I've shared with you all, it means brown sugar. I need 1.5 tablespoons of golden brown sugar. And you know, as we've talked about in previous recipes, whenever we do this brown sugar sort of browning method, two things: you want a dry pan, you want a dry spoon, a spoon with a long handle, because when you add the wet in there, yo, melted sugar, mama, yo, you can get burned. And I have the chicken, which has been seasoned for about 3 hours. I took it out about half an hour ago from the refrigerator because I want that to come up to room temperature. What I will do now is move around the sugar in the pot, and the reason why I like to move it around, you will hear some people say you don't need to move it around, but I know specifically in my stove, on my stove here, there are hot spots, this corner and that corner. The flame tends to be higher, so by moving it around, I won't get any burning. And let's take a minute and talk about burning while this happens. The sugar will go frothy, and that's what you're seeing here. Then it will, it will melt, it will go frothy as you're seeing here. And as soon as it starts going really dark amber, not black, if it goes black, shut everything down, cool down the pot completely, wash it, and restart. That black, yo man, that means bitter tasting stew. So we're just trying to get it to a little bit darker here. And we're gonna add the seasoned chicken with all that lovely jerk marinade in there to the pot. And by stirring it, when I added the chicken to the pot there, notice the lovely color we got throughout the pieces of chicken here. So my heat is still on high. I'm going to put the lid on here, bring that up to a boil. It's going to release its own natural juices. And I'm telling you, it is smelling wicked in the kitchen here, boy. And unlike other stew recipes that I've shared with you, this time the braising liquid is complements of a light beer. It's been about 4 minutes on that high heat, and you notice the vigorous bubble we got going on here. It did sprout its own natural juices, and we're trying to burn off that just to intensify the flavor, the color, just a little bit. So I'm just going to move it around. Heat high, we're going to leave the lid off because we want to burn off that liquid. I don't know if you guys can see that liquid on the bottom there. Most of, if not all of that liquid has burnt off. And I know all the couch experts, the Michelin star chef that we have who loves to leave the comments, will say, well, Chris, why did you put all that onion and tomato in there? And yo, the answer is, I want you to see something. You see that thickness that happened in the bottom here? That is the key to the gravy, which we will be making to enjoy with some lentils and rice and thing. That is the answer and the reason. Now, ladies and gentlemen, earlier there, Zaire was a bit noisy. I do apologize for that. Small man just doing his thing, living his life, and yo, noise is noise, little kids make noise, yeah, so we kind of have to deal with it at this point, or, you know, tune up, like I say. You saw me put beer in the same bowl where we marinated the chicken. Don't worry about cross-contamination and all kind of thing like that. This is going to braise now and cook down that chicken for us. And the reason for adding the beer is when I do grilled jerk chicken on my, whether it is my propane grill, my gas, my smoker, or on charcoal, I like to spritz it with beer, and that beer just loves, it loves jerk. Beer and jerk goes together. Now what I like doing is repeating the same sort of flavors just to heighten it a bit more. We want more of that jerk to come out. So in a good jerk marinade, there are 4 things to a good jerk marinade in my humble opinion. Allspice or pimento berries. Wow, the heat there is kind of hot, so I'm going to toss in about 5 of those. Fresh thyme. It is springtime here in Canada, so you know I'm getting it straight from the garden. Scallions, just to add that nice freshness as well. And the 4th thing in a good jerk marinade is Scotch bonnet pepper. And I've mentioned this earlier. The jerk marinade you saw me using there, it is very spicy, so I don't need to repeat the Scotch bonnet in at this point. However, if you wanted to, if you're big and bold and love it spicy, I mean to say, do your thing. The final thing I like doing is, and while this is not really jerk related, it is part of the stewing process of brown stew, and that is a teaspoon of my homemade Caribbean green seasoning. And that Caribbean green seasoning have all the herbs I like using, along with garlic and seasoning peppers and just pure flavors. You can find that recipe on caribbeanpot.com. I'm just going to move that around there, and I'm sure you guys can already tell there's just pure niceness happening in that pot there. Yeah, so a couple things. I brought it up to a boil, and I reduced it to sort of a rolling boil / simmer, so sort of a medium low heat. And we want to braise that out now, cook out the alcohol from the beer and infuse everything with all those flavors. The sort of tip I would leave with you, if you wanted to leave out the beer and go with just plain old water, Yo, rock that if alcohol is not your thing, but you know, for the most part, most of that alcohol, and this is one of the reasons why I use the light beer. I want, you know, it will cook off most, if not all, of that alcohol. There may be traits of alcohol in there, but nothing to really, yo, don't call it Vatican and thing. Let's leave religion out of this for a minute now, man. Oh gosh, well, so it's been about 20 minutes, so I know the chicken is fully cooked all the way through now. Ladies and gentlemen, a couple things I must mention here. If it's your first time doing stew, which is the sort of, you started off with that brown sugar and you're wondering if this is going to be sweet, no, it is not a sweet dish at all. The second thing is, here is where now you're going to personalize things. 2 ways: taste it for salt, adjust the salt. And the second thing is the gravy. You really want to try and get it to the sort of consistency that you like. If you notice down here, it's still a little runny. It's a beautiful gravy. And I know my residual heat will kick in at some point, but I'm just going to reduce it by another 10%, and then I'm on good. Sup, soldiers? Listen, if you enjoy this recipe, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe, take a picture and send it to me. Email address down here. I mean, trying to tell people the email address, them butts will take the address and do all kind of thing with it. And tag me on Instagram at caribbeanpot. I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for being in my kitchen with me today. Irie. One final sort of observation I made without telling you all, something I did that I forgot to tell you. While it was braising there, I had the lid on, like so, but it was slightly ajar so it can breathe, and we weren't sitting in all that steam there creating more liquid. Chris here, caribbeanpot.com. This is to my liking. You know, we talked about that gravy and thing. You really need some rice in your life at this point here. Jerk stew chicken. Probably the first time you're seeing it here on caribbeanpot.com. I'm going to turn off my heat because the residual heat will thicken that up for me. I'm just going to toss in just a little bit of parsley in there just to brighten things up. Always a pleasure having you guys here in the kitchen with me. Jerk stew chicken, yo, best food, man.